I want you to really picture a scenario. It is Saturday morning. You've got your coffee.
Right.
You're feeling productive. You decide that today is the day you are finally going to organize that back corner of the basement closet.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you know the one where you shove the winter coats and the old tax returns like 3 years ago. So you pull out a box, you shine your flashlight into the corner, and your heart just stops.
It is the ultimate homeowner's horror movie moment.
It really is. It is that dark, fuzzy, creeping patch on the drywall. Mold.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, the reaction isn't just, oh, I need to clean that. It is completely visceral. It makes your skin crawl.
Absolutely.
It feels like your house is infected.
That is a very primal response,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
It is evolutionary, really.
Yeah.
We are hardwired to be repulsed by things that signal decay or toxicity.
Yeah.
It's just a survival mechanism kicking in.
Exactly. It's panic, pure panic. And I will tell you, my immediate instinct, and I think this is true for probably 99% of people listening, is to go straight into kill mode.
Oh, the kill mode, yes.
Right. I want to run to the kitchen, grab the biggest bottle of bleach I can find, maybe a wire brush, and I just want to scrub that spot until the drywall hurts. I want to obliterate it.
And that right there is what we call the scrub and pray method. And unfortunately, it is the single most damaging thing you can do to your home in that exact moment.
See, that breaks my brain a little bit, because if I see dirt, I scrub it. If I see a stain, I scrub it.
It makes logical sense.
Right. But today, we're going to talk about why that specific instinct, that sudden urge to go to war immediately with a scrub brush, is actually making the problem exponentially worse.
It is the great paradox of mold remediation. The harder you fight it without a solid plan, the more you are actually helping it win. You are essentially turning a small skirmish into a world war.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because today we are doing a deep dive into the source material, the mold protocol, remediation and prevention strategy.
A fantastic resource.
It really is. And we're specifically laser focused on the content from episode 6 of that protocol, which is titled Mold, Fear versus Facts.
Yeah.
And I have to say, just reading through this material, I realized I've been doing this wrong my entire adult life.
You and almost everyone else. I mean, the title Fear versus Facts is crucial here because fear drives us to reach for the bleach. Facts tell us to reach for the plastic sheeting.
So we have a massive mission for this deep dive today. The goal here is not just about giving you a cleaning tutorial. It is about a complete psychological reframing.
Right. Moving from panic to informed action.
Exactly. We are going to debunk the big mold myths, including the bleach myth, which I know is going to upset some people.
It always does.
We are going to talk about the absolute golden rule of remediation, which is containment. And we are going to look at what proper remediation actually looks like compared to what people think it looks like.
We're going to get a little nerdy today, too. We have to talk about microns, air pressure, and fungal biology. Because if you don't respect the biology, you really can't win the fight.
I am so ready for it. But let's start with the head game. Section 1 here is all about the psychology of remediation. The source material explicitly states its purpose is to, quote, reduce panic while reinforcing seriousness.
Yeah.
Now, to me, those feel like complete opposites. Usually, if you tell me something is serious, like, hey, there's a toxic fungus eating your living room wall, I'm going to panic.
It is a really difficult needle to thread.
Yeah.
But think about it like a first responder. If a paramedic arrives at a really bad car accident, the situation is incredibly serious, right? It's life and death.
Yeah.
But are they panicking?
No, of course not. If they panic, the patient dies.
Exactly. Panic leads to erratic movement.
Yeah.
It leads to rushing. It leads to huge mistakes. The source is asking us to switch from victim mode, where we are just freaking out, to deliberate mode.
Deliberate mode. I really like that phrase. But why is fear the specific enemy here, aside from just, raising my blood pressure?
Because fear drives the rush. And the source material highlights this as a primary insight. It says improper cleanup often causes larger mold problems. Yeah. When you panic, you skip the assessment. You skip the containment phase entirely. You just attack. And mechanically, as we were going to discuss, attacking a mold colony without prep is like hitting a hornet's nest with a baseball bat.
You are definitely going to get stung.
You are going to get stung, and you are going to scatter the hornets into the rest of your house.
So the seriousness part, why do we need to reinforce that? I mean, if we shouldn't panic, why not just ignore it? Let it be.
Because we have to understand what mold actually is. It's a decomposer. In nature, mold's entire job is to break down dead organic matter. Leaves, fallen trees. It turns them back into soil.
It's nature's recycling system.
Right. But your house is built out of dead organic matter.
Oh.
Yeah. Wood studs, the paper facing on your drywall, that is just processed dead tree. To a mold spore, your house looks like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
That is such a creepy thought. So it's not just sitting on the wall, it's actually eating the wall.
It is actively digesting the cellulose in your home. That is the seriousness the protocol is talking about. It is structural damage happening in slow motion. If you ignore it, you are compromising the physical integrity of the building.
But if you panic and scrub it,
Then you are compromising the air quality of the building.
so we really have to find that middle ground, the bomb defusal mindset. Serious, but slow and steady.
Precisely. You respect the enemy, but you don't fear it.
Okay, let's move into the actual mechanics of why my scrub and pray method is such a disaster. This brings us to section 2 of our deep dive, the mechanics of failure. The source uses this specific term, cross-contamination. Now, usually I hear that term about raw chicken in the kitchen.
It is the exact same principle. You are taking a pathogen from one isolated area and accidentally spreading it to a completely clean area.
So let's play out the scenario. I am the listener. I'm down in the basement. I see the black fuzz. I grab my spray bottle of all-purpose cleaner and a rag. I spray it down and I scrub it hard. The black stuff wipes away. The wall looks clean. I throw the rag in the laundry pile and I feel like a hero. Tell me, scientifically, what I just did wrong.
Well, you didn't clean the mold. You angered it. And then you helped it travel.
I angered it. You're making it sound like a sentient beast.
Well, let's talk physics for a second. We need to talk about spore size. Mold reproduces via spores. These are microscopic seeds. They're incredibly small, usually somewhere between 3 and 40 microns.
Okay, give me a reference point for that. How small is a micron?
A single human hair is about 75 to 100 microns thick. So we are talking about something that is a fraction of the width of a hair. You cannot see an individual spore with the naked eye. You only see them when millions of them clump together in a colony.
So the black spot on the wall is the city, but the citizens are invisible.
Exactly. Now, these spores are biologically evolved for one thing, and that is travel. They are highly aerodynamic. They are designed to float on the absolute slightest breeze to find a new, wet place to grow. So, when you take a scrub brush to a dry mold colony, you are adding massive kinetic energy to that system.
Kinetic energy, right, because I'm scrubbing, I'm creating friction.
Friction creates heat, and it creates air movement. You are essentially creating a localized thermal updraft right against the wall. You are mechanically shearing the spores off the top of the colony and launching them into the air.
So I am creating an invisible spore cloud.
We call it aerosolization. You have just turned a simple surface problem into a severe air quality problem. Imagine that mold colony as a dandelion that has gone to seed. You know, the white, fluffy ones in the yard.
Sure, you flick it and the seeds go absolutely everywhere.
Right. Now imagine you attack that fluffy dandelion with a wire brush. Do you catch the seeds?
No, they would fly all over the neighborhood.
That is exactly what you are doing in your basement. You are exploding the dandelion. And because those spores are 3 microns wide, they do not just fall to the floor. Gravity barely affects them. They float. They can stay suspended in the ambient air for hours.
And while they are floating...
While they are floating, your HVAC system kicks on. The return vent sucks that basement air up. Now, those invisible spores are traveling through your ductwork. They are being forcefully blown into your bedroom, your kitchen, your kid's nursery.
So I made the wall look clean, but I effectively glitter bombed my entire house with toxic particles.
That's the perfect analogy. It is a biological glitter bomb. And once that glitter is inside the HVAC system, good luck getting it out. You have taken a localized $500 problem and turned it into a whole house systemic contamination that could cost tens of thousands to fix.
That is absolutely terrifying. And it perfectly explains the source's primary insight that improper cleanup often causes larger mold problems. It's not that the mold grows back bigger in the same exact spot, it's that you literally planted it everywhere else.
Correct. And we haven't even talked about mycotoxins yet.
Oh boy. What are mycotoxins?
So some molds produce chemical toxins as a defense mechanism. These aren't the spores themselves. They are chemical compounds coating the spores. When you scrub and stress the colony, some molds will actually release more toxins in response to the attack.
So I am literally fighting back, and the mold is fighting back with chemical warfare.
In a very real sense, yes. And here's a key point from the protocol. Dead spores are still dangerous. Even if you manage to somehow kill the mold with a harsh chemical, the physical particle, the carcass of the spore, still carries the allergenic proteins and the mycotoxins.
Wait, so killing it doesn't solve the health risk?
No. If you kill a venomous snake, the venom is still in the fangs. If you step on the dead snake, you still get poisoned.
Yeah.
You have to remove the snake. With mold, you have to physically remove the particle from the environment, not just kill the organism in place.
Wow, this completely changes the definition of clean. Clean isn't dead, clean is gone.
Clean is absent, yes.
Okay, I'm sufficiently scared of the scrub brush now. I get it. Physics is entirely against me here. So if I can't just scrub it, what do I actually do? This leads us straight to the golden rule of the protocol, Section 3. The source says, quote, containment matters more than chemicals.
This is the hill I will gladly die on. If you take one single thing away from this deep dive, let it be this. Containment is everything.
But again, this is so anti-consumer. We are trained by advertising to buy products. We want the ultimate mold destroyer spray. We don't want to go buy plastic sheeting and tape.
Right, we want the magic pill. But the source is telling us we need surgery. And you don't perform open-heart surgery in a sewer. You need a sterile field. In mold remediation, containment is how you establish that sterile control.
So let's get practical. I am the listener. I am looking at that spot on the wall. The source says containment matters more than chemicals. What does that physically look like in my house? Am I building a bubble boy suit?
You are building a quarantine zone. It starts with isolation. You need to physically separate the affected area from the rest of living space.
So I just close the basement door.
Closing the door is step one. But doors are not airtight. Air flows under the gap. It flows around the hinges. Real containment means plastic. And not just any thin plastic.
Can I use, like, heavy-duty trash bags?
Please do not use trash bags. They are way too thin, they rip easily, and they have a static charge that can be really weird with particles. Yeah. You want 6 mil polyethylene sheeting. You can get it at literally any hardware store. It's thick, it's heavy. You want to tape that entirely over the doorway.
Okay, 6 mil plastic, taped securely over the door.
And you want to tape over the HVAC vents in that specific room, both the supply and the return vents. You do not want the air from that dirty room entering the lungs of your house.
That makes perfect sense. Cut off the circulation to the rest of the body.
Now, here is the real pro tip that the professionals use, and it's essential for safe removal procedures. It's called negative air pressure.
That sounds fancy. What does it actually mean?
It sounds complex, but it is just simple physics. Air always moves from high pressure to low pressure. If you are working in that room and you accidentally stir up dust or spores, you want that dust to fly out of the house, not into your clean hallway.
Right. So how do I force the air to go out?
You put a standard box fan in the window of that room, facing out. You seal around the edges of the fan with your tape and plastic so it is completely airtight. When you turn that fan on, it actively sucks air out of the room. This creates a vacuum effect. That is the negative pressure.
So if I open the door to the hallway, just a tiny crack, air rushes into the dirty room, nothing escapes out.
Exactly. It becomes a one-way street. Any microscopic spores you kick up get sucked right out the window into the backyard, which is fine because mold is everywhere outside naturally. You just don't want it in your living room.
That is brilliant. And honestly, it's actually pretty cheap to set up. A roll of plastic, some good painter's tape, and a $20 box fan.
Maybe $30 worth of supplies total. But it saves you thousands of dollars in cross-contamination cleaning later.
So once I have my containment set up, I've got my plastic up, my fan is blowing air outside, now can I clean it?
Now you have created a safe removal environment. Yeah. But let's talk about the chemicals part of that equation, because you mentioned bleach earlier, and we promised to debunk that.
I did. My dad used bleach. I feel like everyone's dad used bleach, but the source seems to imply bleach is, well, not the answer.
Bleach is the old way. And honestly, for porous surfaces, it is mostly a deception.
A deception, that's a strong word.
Think about the actual chemistry of bleach. It is sodium hypochlorite, usually highly diluted in water. The chlorine ion, the part that actually burns and whitens things, is very large chemically. It has extremely high surface tension.
Okay, so it just sits on top of things.
Exactly. If you spray bleach on a porous surface like drywall or wood studs, the chlorine stays right on the surface. It chemically burns the melanin, the color, out of the mold so it looks like it is gone. It turns white.
So I look at it and I think I won.
You think you won. But the water in the bleach, water has low surface tension, so it's deep into the porous drywall. And what does mold desperately need to grow?
Water.
So you just poisoned the surface, but you deeply watered the roots.
I gave it a drink.
You gave it a drink and a cosmetic haircut. And often, because of that harsh chemical attack on the surface, the mold will actually come back stronger and more aggressive because it feels threatened. And now it has a massive fresh water source from your spray bottle.
That is infuriating. So that bottle of mold stain remover under my sink, that is basically just bleach. It's just cosmetic surgery for the fungus.
It really is. It just hides the problem. Now,
Well,
for non-porous surfaces like ceramic tile or a fiberglass bathtub bleach is fine. It sits on top, the mold sits on top, you wipe it away. But for drywall, wood, or concrete, it is absolutely the wrong tool.
so if bleach is completely out for walls, what is the chemical of choice? What am I supposed to use inside my containment zone?
The source points towards specialized antimicrobials that can actually penetrate, or just simple surfactants. But honestly,
Yeah.
the best thing is often just detergent and water.
Wait, just dish soap?
Remember the golden rule. We want to physically remove the particle, not just kill it. Soap is a surfactant. It breaks the surface tension. It makes the water wetter so it can get under the dirt and the spores. It makes the surface slippery. You want to physically detach the mold from the wall and wipe it up.
So it's not about chemical warfare, it's about mechanical removal.
Yes, damp wiping.
Yeah.
You don't want the rag soaking wet, just damp. You wipe gently. You fold the towel to a clean side. You wipe again. You are physically picking up the microscopic spores and trapping them in the cloth, which then goes straight in the trash.
And because you have your containment set up, if any spores accidentally fly off the rag while you're wiping,
They get sucked right out the window by your negative air fan.
it's a whole system. It all works perfectly together.
It is a protocol. That is exactly why the source is called the mold protocol. It is not a shopping list of products. It is a strict operational procedure.
I want to use an analogy here to really drive this home for the listener. The source mentions safe removal procedures. It feels like we should treat this almost exactly like asbestos removal.
Asbestos is actually the perfect comparison. If you found old asbestos tiles in your basement, you would just go down there and smash them with a hammer.
No, you'd breathe it all in.
Right, you would suit up, you would completely seal the room, you would wet the tiles down to keep the toxic dust from flying. Mold requires that exact same level of respect. It is a biological hazard.
So when the source says containment matters more than chemicals, it basically means the most expensive, highly engineered chemical in the world is completely useless if you don't have plastic walls around the problem first.
Correct. You can perform successful surgery with a dull knife in a perfectly sterile room. But you cannot perform surgery with a $1 million laser scalpel in a mud pit. The environment matters more than the tool.
That is such a vivid image. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. We've thoroughly covered the reactive scenario, the "oh no, I found mold in the closet" situation. But what about the listener who is thinking, I really don't want to ever have to deal with plastic sheeting and negative air. How do I stop this before it starts? This brings us to section 4, the timeline and prevention.
This is where we shift the mindset from being reactive to being proactive.
The source mentions the mold growth timeline. Can you break that down for me? Does mold just appear instantly the moment water hits the surface?
It certainly feels like it does when you find it, but no. Mold is biology. It follows very specific biological clock. A spore lands on a wet spot. First, it has to absorb water, it has to physically swell, then it has to send out a germ tube, which is sort of like a microscopic root. Then it starts forming a massive network called mycelium.
How long does all of that biological machinery take to get going?
The golden window, as we call it in the industry, is typically 24 to 48 hours.
So if a pipe bursts under my sink, I essentially have a 2-day head start.
Generally speaking, yes. If you can get that building material completely, 100% dry within 24 to 48 hours, mold simply will not grow. The biological clock stops.
That is incredibly empowering to know, because usually when water spills, we just dry the top of the carpet with a towel and walk away, assuming it's fine.
And that is the fatal mistake. Because the water didn't just stay on top, it went under the carpet. It soaked deeply into the pad. It wicked up behind the baseboard into the drywall.
So prevention isn't about running around spraying anti-mold spray on everything every week. It's really just about moisture management.
It is 100% about moisture. Dry buildings do not grow mold.
Yeah.
Period. If you have visible mold, you fundamentally have a water problem. You don't have a mold problem. You have a plumbing problem or a leaky roof problem or a humidity problem.
Let's talk about humidity, because you mentioned earlier that mold needs water. Does that water have to be a physical puddle from a leak?
No. And this is what we consider the silent killer of homes: high ambient humidity.
What's the number? Is there a specific danger zone we should watch out for?
The magic number is 60%. If your indoor relative humidity stays consistently above 60% for a prolonged period, you are firmly in the danger zone.
But why? If it's just humid air, I'm not seeing puddles on the floor. Where is the water coming from for the mold?
You aren't seeing puddles. But many materials in your home, drywall, raw wood, books, leather furniture, are hygroscopic.
Hygroscopic. Okay, deep geek word. What does that mean for my house?
It means those materials physically absorb moisture directly out of the air. At 70% humidity, your drywall is literally drinking water from the air in the room. It becomes damp on a microscopic level.
And the floating mold spore lands on that slightly damp wall and says, lunch is served.
Exactly. You can easily have a house completely full of mold without a single pipe leak just because your air conditioner wasn't sized correctly or you didn't run a dehumidifier in your damp basement over the summer.
That is wild. So the prevention strategy is literally just to invest in a $10 hygrometer from the store.
Absolutely. Put one in your basement, put one in your attic, put one in your main living space. It is the cheapest and best insurance policy you can buy. If you see it hit 60%, you turn on a dehumidifier, you stop the timeline before it starts.
Interrupt the timeline. I really love that concept. It makes me feel like I actually have control over my house again.
You do. You are the master of your environment. You just have to pay attention to the physics of it.
So we have covered the physics of spores, the biology of the timeline, and the prevention aspect. Now I really want to synthesize all of this into a practical summary. The protocol in practice. This is section 5. Let's walk through the ultimate do's and don'ts list based on everything we've just learned.
Let's do it.
Okay, we'll start with the don't list. Based on the source material, what should the listener stop doing immediately?
Number 1 is easy. Stop panicking. It only leads to bad rush decisions.
Right.
Number 2, stop the scrub and pray. Do not scrub dry mold.
Right.
Ever. You are just launching spores.
The dandelion effect.
Exactly. Number 3, stop using bleach on porous surfaces like drywall and wood. It's a waste of time, it's cosmetic, and it just adds water to the problem.
And number 4.
Number 4 is huge. Do not point fans at a wet mold problem without having full containment set up first. You're just building a spore cannon and firing it into your house.
Oh man, that fan one is huge. I feel like everyone does that instinctively. Oh, the floor is wet. Let me grab the big fan and dry it out.
If the water is clean and fresh, a fan is great. If the mold is already there and growing, the fan is your worst enemy, unless it's strictly exhausting out a window under negative pressure.
Okay, so that's what not to do. Now give me the do list, the actual protocol path.
Step 1, assess. Where is the water actually coming from? You have to stop the water source first. If you spend 3 days cleaning the mold but don't fix the dripping pipe, the mold will be back in 48 hours.
Makes sense. Fix the root cause.
Step 2, contain, isolate the area completely. Get the 6mm plastic, the good tape, and set up negative air pressure if at all possible.
Cut off the rest of the house.
Step 3, protect yourself. Wear a proper N95 mask or a respirator. Do not breathe the dust while you work. Wear gloves.
Safety first.
Step 4, remove the problem. Damp wipe the surfaces with a surfactant, or physically cut out the drywall if the mold has penetrated too deeply into the material. And when you bag up that debris, bag it inside the containment zone before you carry it through the house.
Oh, that's smart. Don't carry a dirty piece of drywall through the clean kitchen.
Exactly. And step 5, clean the space. HEPA vacuum everything in that room.
Wait, HEPA vacuum? Why can't I just use my regular garage shop vac?
Great catch. A standard shop vac is essentially a dust pump. It sucks the big dirt in, but the paper filter is way too coarse to stop microscopic mold spores. It literally sucks them off the floor and blows them straight out the exhaust port into the air at 100 miles an hour.
So you are just relocating the mold from the floor to the air you're breathing?
Exactly. A true HEPA filter captures 99.97% of particles down to 0.3 microns. You need a sealed HEPA vacuum. If you do not have one, careful damp wiping of all surfaces is honestly safer than using a regular vacuum.
That is a crucial, crucial detail. Okay, so we've done the damp wiping. We've HEPA vacuumed the containment zone. When do we get to take the plastic down and get our room back?
This is the patience part of the protocol. You wait until the air settles completely. Ideally, if it was a big remediation job, you want to pass a clearance test before taking down the plastic.
What exactly is a clearance test?
That's where a third-party professional comes in and takes an air sample inside your containment zone and then compares it to an air sample taken outside your house. If the mold spore count inside is lower than or equal to the outside air, you win. The space is clean.
And if the count inside is higher?
You keep the plastic up and you keep cleaning. You missed something.
That actually brings up a really good question. When do I call a pro? We've been talking this whole time like I am doing this myself on a Saturday. But when is the problem simply too big for a homeowner?
The EPA generally states that if the continuous affected area is larger than 10 square feet, so roughly a 3-foot by 3-foot patch on the wall, you really should call a professional remediation company.
3 by 3 feet. That's honestly not that huge.
It's not. But remember, because mold grows toward the moisture source, if it is a 3 by 3 patch on the visible side of the wall, imagine what it looks like behind the drywall inside the dark, wet wall cavity.
Right. It's the iceberg theory. You're only seeing the tip.
Exactly. And if you do hire a pro, you can actually use this deep dive we're doing to vet them.
Oh, I really like that idea. How do I interview my mold guy?
You ask them straight up, how do you handle containment? If they shrug and say, oh, we don't need all that plastic, we just use a special chemical fog that kills everything on contact, fire them immediately.
The old splash and dash.
Exactly. If they don't explicitly talk about establishing negative air, if they don't talk about physical removal of the materials, if they just want to spray expensive chemicals and leave, they are not following the protocol. They are taking your money and leaving you with dead, toxic spores.
That is such valuable consumer advice. You are really paying for the rigorous containment process, not just the physical labor of wiping a wall.
You are paying to protect the safety of your home's air for your family.
This has been so incredibly dense with information. I feel like I need to go apologize to my basement for all the years of terrible neglect.
It's never too late to start doing it right.
As we start to wrap up the deep dive, I want to leave the listener with a final thought. We have talked a lot about the how today, the physics, the plastic, the vacuums, but I want to touch on the why one last time. We sort of teased this idea earlier of chemical versus structural solutions.
It is a philosophy that really goes way beyond just mold in a basement.
It really does, because in our modern life, we are so addicted to the quick fix. We want the pill, the life hack, the magic spray. We constantly want a fast chemical solution to what is actually a deep structural problem.
We take painkillers for a bad back instead of doing the hard physical therapy. We take diet pills instead of fundamentally changing how we eat and move.
And we spray bleach on a moldy wall instead of doing the hard work of fixing the leaky pipe and managing the humidity in the room.
The chemical solution is incredibly seductive because it's easy, gives you instant gratification. But it is always temporary. The structural solution, building containment, controlling moisture, doing preventative maintenance is hard. It's boring. It takes physical work, but it is permanent.
So the mold protocol isn't just a cleaning guide. It's really a call to stop looking for shortcuts. It's a call to take true ownership of the structure you live in.
Be the active steward of your home. If you fix the environment itself, the invading organism simply cannot survive. You don't have to go to war with the mold. You just have to make your home physically inhospitable to it.
That is a much, much more peaceful way to live. Don't go to war. Just change the climate.
Exactly. Starve the enemy. Don't bomb it.
Well, thank you so much for unpacking all of this with us today. This was the deep dive on the mold protocol, remediation and prevention strategies. My absolute biggest takeaway, step far, far away from the bleach bottle.
And go buy a thick roll of tape.
And go buy a roll of tape. Thank you for listening, everyone. Remember, stay dry, stay safe, and respect the spores.
Take care, everyone.